You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
An empire begins to crumble. A republic rises anew. Told in reverent tones are a rebellion's hero stories. And these are not those stories. Welcome to The Fools Who Follow, a new Star Wars Edge of the Empire actual play podcast set in the years after Return of the Jedi, featuring Minneapolis-based actors and improvisers as a motley crew of misfits, the like of which the galaxy has never seen. The Fools Who Follow launches July 2019 and will be available wherever you get podcasts. Updates on Twitter @FoolsFollowPod. Each generation has its legends and its fools.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 16 of the Coldfire Chronicles. As I said, I'm Adam, I'm your host and the GM, and I'm joined round the table by...
Hi, I'm Ross. I'm playing Agatha, a Morailan warrior aggressor whose emotional strength is his pride, but whose weakness is his anger.
Hi, I'm Mikey. I'm playing Jiren. He's a Chiss mystic advisor. His emotional strength is his enthusiasm, but his emotional weakness is his recklessness.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Lassa. She's a human sentinel artisan. Her emotional strength is her curiosity, but her weakness is her obsession.
Hi, my name's Ed Fortune. I'm playing the character of Oberon Brick. He is a human hunter seeker. His emotional strength is justice, and his emotional weakness is cruelty.
Okay, and before we rejoin our heroes in the darkness, do we have a question from our characters?
Oberon, what do you want to get out of this? What is the legacy you would like to leave?
Oh, the legacy I'd like to leave. The legacy. I'd like there to not be one. I'd like there to be no brick left.
No stone unturned. No, I'm not doing that. That's terrible. Okay. No, so if you change your name, what is the...
No, my family are awful. We are awful. We are a scourge.
You're not, most of the time.
I'm no better. I've just turned the wrong way around.
I think we can do better than that for you. Stick with me.
I wish people could have seen the absolute crazy face that he had there, that Ed had as for Oberon then.
Kind of standard, really.
It was manic. I was a little afraid.
We rejoin our hero in a large chamber in the heart of the asteroid the Costa Thibaren is moored on. They've descended through what looks like a cargo shaft of some form into the hot, prickly darkness down here, lit only by the torches that they've brought with them. They have defeated the enemies that waited for them in this room, and Lassa has cut through a power cable which has shut down, seemingly, the remaining Zomborgs awaiting them, but also appears to have shut down a communications jammer they weren't even aware was operating, as Pyjak suddenly crackled into being over the airwaves, panicked, asking them where they were and what was going on, and from the next room over, they heard the tortured cries of Mr. Flesh. What are you doing?
Pyjak, it's great to hear from you. We've been trying to get on to you for ages. I lie.
What's going on in there? You've been out of communication for like the last hour or so. As soon as you got in the ship, it just cut dead. We were going to try and get over here. Prinkle and Tugger were doing their best to cut through whatever was blocking the comms. I didn't want to come over and follow you straight away just in case, because, you know, as I said, I've got no air in this suit. We've been just trying to slice through and get a signal back. We were about to have done and come over, but...
There's been an incident. We're running out of air. I'm not as... I've lost an arm. It is not good. But we're okay. We're okay, mostly. The big thing here is that Agatha's suit is not repairable. We don't know how to get back over.
What can I do? What do you need me to do?
Is there a way of linking the Coldfire to either of these ships if we move one of them?
Just give me a second. He signs off. There's about 30 seconds of silence before the comm goes again. Right, I've spoken to Tugger. We reckon if you can get that Pathfinder moved off the top, we can land and connect on there. The Star Sprite's too small. The space under the wing isn't enough for the Coldfire's mercy. But if you can get that Pathfinder disconnected and moved away, we can move in. I mean, if worse comes to worse, I can hover over and try and send Tugger out to manually undock it, but I don't know what the connectors are like on there.
Now, Adam.
Yeah.
Was this Pathfinder connected, or did they board forcefully? Is there an airlock there, or was there a hole?
It was a boarding tube that they've punched into the top of the Costa Thibaren.
So if we unlock it, the air's going to go quite quickly.
Well, yes, because it's not pressurised, the Pathfinder. But at that point, it might be that you've got some air left on your rebreathers. If you kick back to using the air that's left in the Costa Thibaren, yes, it's going to be thin, there's going to be some penalties, but it will save the oxygen you've got left in the rebreathers that Lasser managed to rig up to buy you that little bit of extra time to disconnect the Pathfinder. Because these kind of boarding tubes that the Night Sisters have used, it's connected at both sides. So you can disconnect it from the Costa, or you can disconnect it from the Pathfinder side, and that would leave a boarding tube that the Coldfire's Mercy can connect up to.
Okay, so how long will it be once we release the Pathfinder for you to be able to lock on?
Like, as soon as it's out of the way, if needs be. I mean, I don't know how urgently you need us over there. If you can disconnect the Pathfinder, we'll just nudge the blighter out the way, divert all our shields to the fore, and just bash the bugger.
If you can start looking into that, we've got a few things we need to deal with here before we do that.
Alright, we're still going to need to keep her roughly on silent at the moment so we don't get spotted by their imp. We'll get her ready. I'll get Tugger to start making the calculations right now. You give us a shout when you're ready for us and we'll be with you lickety-split.
Riddle.
Is there anything else you need from me before that point?
Another spacesuit.
We don't have any, mate.
This is Lasser coming in on comms. Hello, my lovely. You're going to want to prep the medical units, or prep a medical space so I can get to work, somewhere in my workshop. Clean it down if you can, if that's all right.
There's a scuffle as Brinkle kind of pushes Pyjack to one side and goes,
Yes, my friend. I will make sure the place is nice and clean and sterile for you. How big a space do you need?
How big do you think Duran is?
I am 6 foot.
Oh, crikey.
That's 6 foot then.
Duran is not 6 foot. He's 5'9".
Okay. Be safe, my friends.
You too, my love. Over.
Before we go any further, there is something we need to discuss.
Okay.
So, Mr. Flesh, whom we all have a very strong reason to, hate, we need to give him the opportunity to surrender.
Agatha disagrees.
We've got to shut that mattering thing down.
It's still a sentient being. Yeah, I know, but if I'm going to start to think this way, we need to ask it if it would like to stand down. It won't, but we need to ask it.
We didn't ask any of the other weapon-wielding droid zombies if they were possibly inclined to have tea instead.
They don't have a mind, this does. It's clearly alive. We need to ask it. It's going to say no, but we need to ask it. Unless I've misunderstood everything that I've been learning so far.
No, let's do the formality. That is fine.
Just pick the small amount of words so you save as much oxygen as possible, because this would be a terrible time to waste it.
Has everybody got a stim pack?
Yes.
Might I suggest you use them? You all look terrible.
Agatha uses a stim pack.
Oberon uses a stim pack?
I've only got one stim pack left, and I don't want to use it yet, because I won't get the full amount of it.
Duran very awkwardly goes into a pack on his right side, not quite used to only having one arm, and pulls out a stim pack and passes it. Use it.
Well, I think you might need it a bit more, Duran.
Use it. I have several.
All right. Lasser gratefully takes the stim pack and uses it to make herself feel a bit better.
From the room where you think Mr. Flesh might be, certainly from the room where the voice shouting no came from, there are lights starting to kind of flicker on in there, and it's a strange, greenish, murky light that's coming out. It's not a clean light. It's not the sort of light that's cast by glow lamps or flash bulbs or anything like that. It's a weird, very diffuse, unhealthy-looking greenish light that's coming from there now. And you can definitely hear that there is the sound of machinery starting to creak and move in there.
Shall I go and ask him?
Yes.
Right up.
Make it clear it's the only opportunity he will have.
The opportunity of a lifetime. Duran looks a little bit worried, shakes his head, and clasping his arm to his missing arm, he starts sauntering in.
Okay, well, as sauntering as you can, there's no gravity in this section.
Pulling him,
yeah.
therefore not grasping his arm on, using his one remaining arm to pull himself along.
Okay.
Lass is going to take out her little pistol and train it around him to look for any incoming threats.
Agatha's going to be along next to J-Ren. He's going to be supporting him side by side, despite the fact he feels almost dead.
Oberon floats with a small amount of menace, pointing his rifle and his torch in one direction.
J-Ren and Agatha, you get to the doorway to the room in which you assume Mr. Flesh has been hiding, your eyes starting to adjust to this sickly green light that's filling the room. J-Ren, it's particularly unsettling for you, on top of a whole host of other unsettling experiences you've had aboard the Costa Thibaren. Because your night vision is excellent, you are used to being able to see in the dark without the need for paraphernalia and to see fairly well. But there's something about this light that's affecting your eyes. It's making it hard to focus on what's in here. There are shadows dancing around the corner of your vision, and as you snap your gaze to them fearfully, they've gone. There was nothing there. The walls of this room are dripping machine oil, which is unusual in a number of respects. The first being that you're still in zero gravity, so it should not be dripping. If anything else, it should be floating free, forming those bubbles that come when liquids are released into zero gravity. And it's clearly machine oil that's being dripped. It isn't blood. The viscosity's all wrong, the colour's all wrong, the movement of it down the walls is all wrong. The room itself is filled with technology. Across the back wall is a sophisticated communications array which appears to have been installed in place here and was most likely used by the original inhabitants of this asteroid to monitor traffic, to plot their way through the asteroid field, to spot unwary ships and to find buyers for the goods they've stolen. It all appears to have been repurposed, and you can see thick cabling running out from that comms gear and into a central column of technology which stretches from floor to ceiling. The column is composed of all the various bits of technology that you have identified as missing from the Costa Thibaren and the Star Sprite, and some that you can assume has come either from the Pathfinder or from some of the other cargo that was previously stored here. It's a wide column, 3 or 4 feet in diameter, filled with blinking lights that are pulsing faintly, and in the centre of this command console is a helmet connected by wires, and in the helmet is an orb, round about the size of a human head but perfectly spherical, and this orb is the primary source of illumination in here. It is filled with a roiling, churning green mist. The base of this column is the command console taken from the Costa Thibaren, and you can see that this is one of those command consoles that houses a droid brain to help run the life support systems and plot astrogation rather than relying on sentient error or an astromech droid. In front of this command console is a chair, a captain's chair, again clearly taken from the Costa Thibaren, and seated in this chair, back straight, held in place by a series of cables and connectors going into the back of its skull, is a humanoid figure, long snout covered by a mask. His clothes are decayed finery, and you can see wounds on its body which would have proved easily fatal to a living creature. In the centre of its forehead is a cracked green crystal, glowing with the same colour light from the orb, but with a fierce intensity that hurts if you look at it too much. Around the chair are a number of speakers, and as you float into the room more fully, a voice crackles out of those speakers.
This is unacceptable.
Hello, says J-Ren. For those people with higher cunning than Agatha, he has a fixed grin of somebody who's quite terrified. But Agatha, J-Ren's quite happy. Yeah, he seems calm. Yeah, not.
I'm there for your support and to support you in this, and, as far as I can tell, you're being entirely sincere.
I am J-Ren. I am, you already know me. I am here to parley, to give you the opportunities to surrender. I have a friend who is going through a lot right now, and he feels that you should have the opportunity to stop. What do you say?
There can be no surrender while enemies still threaten the Costa Thibaren.
Okay.
Commence self-repair routines. Reactivate the harvester droids. Your flesh will be repurposed. You will serve the vessel.
So J-Ren puts his finger up as if to try and stop it from talking, realises that doesn't happen, turns back round and says to Oberon, is that okay?
Yes, thank you. At which point I'd like to pull the trigger, because while J-Ren's been talking, I've been aiming at the forehead crystal thing.
The bolt from Oberon's rifle cuts through the air and hits the crystal square on, causing it to explode in a blinding flash and a shockwave of energy that sends you all cartwheeling back across the cargo hold until you hit the wall at the back. Not with enough force to harm, just to stun for a second, just to disorient. You hear, echoing through the speakers and then fading away,
No.
As you come back to your senses, you do realise something. Some of that air of threat, that murky, tarnished feeling that's been on your soul ever since you stepped foot inside the Costa Thibaren. You may not even realise it at the time, but it's noticeable now that it's gone. Although the room you're in is still dark and thick and hot, and although the air itself is quite oppressive, that extra layer of tension, that extra layer of grime which had been on you has gone.
Is it dead?
Maybe, I don't know. Jiren pushes his feet against the back wall and kicks off to float slowly back towards where Mr. Flesh was.
You make it back into the room where this construct was, where Mr. Flesh was. The corpse is shattered into pieces. The shockwave that was released from the crystal and its forehead being blown up has ravaged this corpse. It's almost gone to dust. The walls are no longer bleeding machine oil. The lights on the computers have completely gone. The orb is still there, and it seems quiescent now. Although it's still lit slightly from within by this greenish mist, they're no longer roiling, it's no longer churning in there. It just looks cloudy. There is no movement, there's just this very faint green light, and that light has faded dramatically down from when you first came in here.
It doesn't look dead, it looks deactivated somewhat. I don't know much about holocrons, but they're described as orbs or squares or something. That big thing up there might be the holocron.
Shall we have a search?
Yeah, I don't like being in here by myself. Can you come in?
Agatha follows.
Yeah, I'm following at a distance.
Yes.
We should grab a bag and put it in it. Don't nobody make, contact with it. It looks a little bit mystical for my liking.
Now you can see it properly, Lasser. This matches the description that you found in the diary of what they were calling the holocron that they looted from Dathomir.
Alright, I reckon this is the baby. She's going to take a cloth out of her mechanical bag, wrap it in it, and tuck it in safely.
Okay, are you taking it out of the helmet piece that it's in then? Or are you disconnecting the helmet? If you imagine it like Cerebro.
She goes to disconnect the whole thing and then starts looking at it. Does this helmet look like it's associated in a normal way with this orb?
No.
No.
It looks like this helmet was a helmet from a spacesuit or something similar that has then been adapted to fit around the orb after the fact.
She's just going to take the orb.
Okay, there's a bit of resistance, but it pops out. Even through the cloth, it feels weird. There is a feeling like static electricity on your fingers, and you can see that where your fingers are touching it through the cloth, there is almost like green lightning playing on the inside, like a plasma ball. But even through the cloth, you can make out the slight brightening.
And close up the bag.
I carefully examine the corpse I've just desecrated.
Agatha's looking at it as well.
It was humanoid in build. It no longer has a head.
That answers Agatha's next question.
So yeah, it's a bit difficult to try and work out what species it was now that it no longer has a head or for you to look at. It's mostly dusted as well. As you're kind of looking at it, as you're kind of poking it, it just starts desiccating away into dust, leaving behind its suit, which was it looks like it was quite fine clothing at some point, but has been horribly knackered through a body decaying while wearing it. And it did have some servo motors in its arms, but it looks like most of the cybernetics that were going in, most of the connections were going into the skull, which obviously is no longer there anymore. You can see where there were wires leading in, but they're now just covered in dust and gag.
Lasser, bad news. You can't get a trophy from this one.
I reckon I've got the important thing, though, and that'll be the fond memories of this small adventure with you lovely folks.
Oh well, okay.
Shall we carefully check to see if we've missed anything, or if we can find out what happened?
Well, there's a laser sword somewhere around here, but it's probably been augmented into the whatever this is.
Lasser, do you want to hit it with a spanner?
It's probably worth having a look through all of this to see whether anything is salvageable.
Yes, we had to be quick though, because it's getting... I don't want to...
We can do
Stop
this.
breathing.
We can do this when we have air.
True.
I mean, the question is, at this stage, are you still using the breathing apparatus that you salvaged Lasser from the medical bay, or have you gone back to breathing the remnants of the air in the Costa Thibaren?
When the fight started, she probably would have put the breather on to make sure that we were at peak efficiency for that.
Yeah, you were all using them when you came down here.
Yeah.
I mean, from this point on, having been told by Pyjack the timescale of what he's going to need, did you then go back to using, or are you going to do that now that Mr. Flesh appears to have been dealt with?
Now he's over. Yeah, I think if there's enough oxygen to do us for a little bit longer, particularly if I can have a look at the consoles and maybe release some more, it could just be that they were turned off because he doesn't need them particularly, or Mr. Flesh didn't need them particularly.
There's no power going to the consoles. That was the cable that you cut.
Oh, yes. Oops.
Jiren's using his separate breath mask, which he brought with him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using the existing rebreather.
Agatha's breathing the air that's around.
Okay. It's very thick air down here. It's very hot air. It's not got a great oxygen content left anymore, but it's quite heavy to breathe. And it's odd because there's no gravity as well, so that also makes things a bit peculiar when you're trying to breathe in 0G.
Okay, we have everything we came for.
Agatha thinks we should go back up.
Do you want to have a quick look around here? I mean, there's no power to the consoles, but if you want to have a quick look around, you can spare a couple of minutes.
I'd be interested to see if there is a laser sword stuck somewhere in there.
I will assist with a quick search in case, as soon as we leave the room, it falls apart or something.
Most of the supplies that were in here have either been pillaged, and there was a lot of tech supplies, and a lot of them have been pillaged and used to build whatever the hell this contraption was that the orb was mounted into and that this corpse was wired up to, or else have been used to empower the various threats that you've fought with so far. There's a couple of old kind of blaster rifles that are out of power, and blaster pistols that are out of power. Very archaic design, not great manufacture. It looks like the kind of off-the-shelf stuff that most people now carry, but several hundred years old. It's not remarkable, really. There is a strange piece of equipment. At some point, it looks like it was a cylinder, round about 6 or 7 inches long, with a switch on, a belt loop, and housing inside for some form of crystal. And then it looks like something has picked that up and has dashed it against the floor to break it open, and whatever was kept in that central focusing point has been removed.
Okay, I'll take it because it's a curiosity and it might be interesting to have a look at.
Anything else?
Nothing really of interest. There's some old foodstuffs. They're several hundred years past their expiry date, and even the canned stuff ain't great. It's probably poisonous now. What you do find that looks like it might still be edible, mostly because this stuff does not ever go off, are goo tubes. They are long tubes filled with flavoured nutrient paste that just never goes off, available in a variety of flavours. They're a company that's been going for millennia, and they're still producing them now. But down here, as well as the more common, flavours that you're used to, there's some that have clearly been discontinued for potentially centuries. Flugelberry, all manner of peculiar flavour combinations.
Can we normally put the advert in this show big at the beginning?
I will take the collector's item glue tubes.
In space eBay, there are people going, "Oh, I've been wanting to taste this for years. Last I was 8, now I'm 888, and the flavour of Flugelberry."
Salty Rancor flavour.
Oh, they're extinct now,
For some reason, I'm not happy about taking the organic material from this slaughterhouse. So you go nuts.
Agatha doesn't care, he's already on his way back to the hole.
As we go out, I'd like to take a sample of the crystal dust from the exploded crystal as well, so we can compare it against the orb.
That's a little bit more difficult because there doesn't appear to be any left.
Oh, all completely
It's okay.
gone.
Yeah.
Agatha's been breathing it in. We can just take it from him.
It looks like when Oberon's bolt hit it, it violently disintegrated.
Would a warfare roll give me a chance of working out what the funny tube was, by the way?
Warfare or law?
I've got warfare.
It's a difficulty 3 warfare, it's a difficulty 2 law.
Oh, no.
Oh, the suspense!
Yeah, Jiren, seeing you looking at it, just goes, "That's the lightsaber. I got 3 successes on my law."
And having kind of looked at this closely, it looks like the glowing crystal that was embedded in the forehead of the corpse is round about the same size and shape that would fit in this.
Yeah, the thing you shot goes in there.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's a thing to have.
It was a big glowing thing on some.
Oh yeah, no,
monsters.
I think it was the thing that was holding everything together, and I think it was the right thing to do. It's just, I'd hate to have not found it.
Yes.
All right, so Lassa's bundling up the last few things in her bag, the broken lightsaber, and right, we better get a move on. We've got to move a ship before we can get off a ship.
Okay.
We're going to star wipe away from you, leaving the centre of the asteroid, and we rejoin you in the 0G at the top of the upper cargo bay. It's a familiar place. It's where Oberon's rifle was broken. It's where the giant gorilla droid, treated you, Lassa, so discourteously. And fixed in the roof is the docking point, where the boarding tube from the Pathfinder has punched through the shell of the Costa Thibaren and is currently anchoring it in place. As discussed on the last occasion, it is depowered, it needs to be manually cranked, and you are aware that it is depressurised, so when you open it up there will be that influx of air into the Pathfinder.
Okay, so first things first, I take off my breather mask. I say, you put that on.
I was going to say, there is an airlock in here that works, isn't there?
That's right.
So one of us can get into that and still be able to breathe while we depressurise things.
That is correct. Assuming everything goes right, that's great. But if everything goes wrong...
This is a good point.
Put it on.
Agatha, where's the thing?
Hey, Lassa, could you sort out my arm on the suit?
Oh, right. I imagine we can tie it off, make sure it's all
just
right.
tape it up. Didn't even mess with this with the lining. I just lost a glove, which, to be fair, is over there.
Again, it's not difficult because the suit itself isn't particularly damaged from certainly it's in better nick than Jiren is. So you are able to seal that off to a level that will survive going outside.
All right, and we've got the pieces that we need, haven't we? Because you picked up an arm. All right, we're going to get you fixed up, good as new, better even.
No, you're not, but thank you very much for trying.
Are we just kicking the Pathfinder off the thing to make room for the Coldfire?
Yeah, we've got to be on the right side, obviously, when we send it floating into space.
Right, okay. I'm still not wearing a spacesuit at this point, so...
I think that's why we're trying to get you across to the other. We're going to try and... There's an airlock and can repressurise from the airlock, or not?
The boarding tube can be sealed on both sides and does form a bit of an airlock when it's set up. At the moment, it seems that it's open into the Pathfinder, which is depressurised, so that when Oberon opened it last time, it caused an open channel from the Costa all the way through. So if someone opens this, gets in the tube, and then close it behind you can have that function as an airlock.
Yeah.
So Oberon goes through the tube.
Before you do anything, let's get us ready on both sides. I open up comms to the Coldfire.
Pajek reading over.
All right, so we're at the Pathfinder. We're going to unlock it. There might be a bit of a pressure variance, so it may push it away, but if not, can you give it a nudge?
Right on. We'll take off now and start creeping our way over.
You let us know when you're ready.
Will do. Ed.
So Oberon goes, let me make sure I've got this right. I'm opening this airlock, going up the tube, disconnecting the Pathfinder and closing the portal.
Close the portal, then disconnect.
The Pathfinder, yeah.
Don't do it the other way around or you'll be in space.
Yes. Making sure I have the order of operations completely correct, because he's menacing, but he's not necessarily bright.
Before you go, if you mess this up, I will miss you.
Thank you.
He gives you a pat on the shoulder.
Okay, go into the tube.
I would like a coordination test from you. I'm going to flip a dark side point, and the difficulty is going to be 1 red, 1 purple, and 1 setback die.
2 success and advantage.
Okay, so yes, without a problem, you manage to open up the boarding tube on the Costa Thibaren side and use the differential pressure to suck yourself into the tube and close it behind you without losing too much of the air from inside the Costa or from dragging, the rest of the group out through the airlock as well. You make your way up the tube to the other side, and you're given that gentle push that pushes you into the Pathfinder ship. The Pathfinder ship, the boarding tube is open at that end of it, and do you want to kind of poke your head in and have a look before you seal it off and disconnect it?
I'll have a quick search.
It once again looks like it's been gutted.
Yep.
All the bits taken out of it, or at least all the bits you can see taken out of it. It's not hugely complicated to disconnect from this side as well, so...
Can I set it to do that and still get back into the tube in time?
You can if you make me a mechanics or a computers test. Otherwise, you might need to disconnect it and then just hover around in free space. You're in a spacesuit.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
While we're all waiting back on the ship, just kind of like, do. And Lasser's going to be like, I would have offered to go, but he seemed so eager.
It'll be fine, as long as he doesn't disconnect it while he's in the tube that's pressurized, because that'll shoot him out of it like a pistol. As long as he's thought of that, then we're fine.
Agatha has a lot of faith in this plan.
I hate you all.
Bagsy, I have his bunk.
I'll make a
We're on
computer.
comms, by the way.
How do you not already have his bunk? You're persuasive.
I already have mine. I want somewhere to put my feet.
Larsa, can I open a link so the Larsa can access the computers?
That's no fun.
That's much more sensible.
It is. It's a computers test.
A slightly more difficult computer than doing it yourself.
But one that doesn't leave me stranded and dead.
It's a slightly easy computers test because basically you're turning on their Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
There is trickles of power left in here. There's not an awful lot because the power plant again has gone. And what you're now accessing is what's stored in the Costa Thibaren's capacitors, because obviously the power plant that was powering everything, Lasser's cut the power cable to. So there's a bit of power, but mostly it's manual cranking, you see.
Oh bother, I've got this portable power pack as well that we were carrying around in case
You
there was
do?
anything we need to emergency power up. You think I ought to have given it to him?
In fact, specifically, airlocks and similar things.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm sure he'll call if he gets into trouble, right?
Do you want me to tell you the difficulty before you roll?
Yes, please.
So you're intending to patch Lasser into their computers. Is that the plan? Okay. It's a difficulty 2 computers test. And I'm going to give you a setback die because of the fading power that's left in here.
2 success on turning on the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Lasser, your data slate receives a connection from Oberon's, and it looks like he's wired into the computer system of the Pathfinder. What's left of it? Mostly the separate bits that power the boarding tube and its connection to the vessel.
Ooh.
I get back into the boarding tube bit.
And then close it behind you.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so I can do this from here then.
You can.
Let's do that test.
I'm going to flip another dark side point. The difficulty is 1 red and 2 purple. And I'm going to give you a setback die as well because once again, the power is so limited here. You know, you're on the dregs of the Wi-Fi before it drains out.
Don't get a despair for Oberon's sake.
Okie dokie.
I regret nothing.
Okay. I'm just saying, could my data spike be useful here?
No, it's not a security thing that you're hacking through. It's a standard program. It's just there's limited power and it's setting a time delay, which is the computer that you're accessing is not coded in BASIC. You know, it's not a mass manufactured thing. This is presumably whatever computer systems they use on Dathomir.
You have 5% power left, and it's asking you to go through the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Just looking to see if there's anything useful.
You can flip a light side point. You got 4 of them now.
I could. I think it's worth it.
Okay.
Okay, so that leaves me with 3 yellows to go against your 2 purple, a red, and a black setback. May the fates be with us. Oh no.
Is that a despair I see before me?
Is indeed.
Uh-ohs.
I have been left with 1 advantage and 1 despair.
Okay. So,
This Wi-Fi has parental consent settings on it.
this is what happens. Unfortunately, you don't manage to set the time delay. In fact, quite the opposite. You have activated the disconnection sequence now. So I'll give you the good news first. The good news is that the way these boarding tubes are designed, when they punch through into another vessel, they do leave behind them a semi-airlock itself. So when everything disconnects properly, it doesn't then vent the ship that they've been attached to, which means that the crew that they've put on that ship can fly it away as a prize. That's the good news. The bad news, in the form of that despair, is that while you have successfully disconnected the docking tube, you've disconnected it at the wrong end. So the Pathfinder does indeed disconnect from the Costa Thibaren, with the boarding tube still attached to the Pathfinder, and Oberon still in the boarding tube. At which point, the Coldfire's Mercy gently nudges the Pathfinder.
I need to ask a question, and I want you to be honest. Did you do that on purpose?
Out of the way. What would you like your advantage to be?
Did we close the end of the tube with Oberon? The other end of the tube with...
Yes.
Oberon thinks it's his fault.
This is kind of petty, but I would very much like the advantage to be that everyone on my side can perfectly see why. And it isn't my fault that the endings have been mixed up in the computer programming. And it's absolutely believable that this isn't a stupid rookie mistake, that this is actually a serious computing error that I couldn't possibly have known about.
Yeah, my level of computers, I'm not going to get that.
Hang on, I want to add to that goal. Just as it happens, and that's really cool. Oh, by the way, A is B and B is A.
It's really sad because I could have used that advantage to, like, you've got extra air or everything's fine for you, but I'm much more concerned about losing face here.
Also, it's funnier.
And as the Pathfinder gently floats away, having been nudged by the Coldfire's mercy, that's where we're ending the episode.
Oh, no.
This episode's backer is Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart is my oldest friend. He got me into role-playing more years ago than I care to remember. He is one of the greatest GMs I've ever had the privilege of playing under. He's one of the finest players I've ever had the pleasure of having in one of my parties.
He is sound.
He is a thoroughly excellent person. He supported
Hulk.
me and the show and all of us every step of the way from the very start. He showed me how to run a good game. So if you're enjoying this show, you've got him to thank. And if you're not enjoying this show, I'll take all of the blame for that. I can't express my gratitude enough for everything he's done for us. We're just so glad that you're with us on this journey. So, tar very much, Chief.
Yep, brilliant time.
This one's for you. And we will see the rest of you next time.
Bye! Oberon in space!
Well, he is a fascist pig, so...
Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.